Since you clearly can't provide for your son, I thought this might help. It's entry level, but everyone has to start somewhere. My sister Jennifer announced at Sunday dinner, sliding a folded job application across the table toward me with the satisfied smile of someone performing charity. It's a cleaning position at my company. The hours are flexible, and honestly, you don't need any qualifications. My 12-year-old son Marcus sat beside me, his face burning crimson as 20 family members watched his mother be publicly offered a janitorial job by an aunt who'd spent years perfecting the art of condescending kindness. What Jennifer didn't know, what she'd never bothered to learn in her relentless campaign to establish superiority, was that the building where her company rented office space was part of a commercial real estate portfolio I'd been quietly building for a decade, and the lease renewal sitting on my desk was about to become the most interesting document at this dinner. The dynamic between Jennifer and me had been toxic since childhood. She was 3 years older, perpetually convinced that birth order conferred permanent authority. Growing up, she'd appointed herself the arbiter of my failures, academic, social, romantic, professional. Every stumble I made became evidence of her superiority. Every success I achieved became an anomaly she'd explain away. When I'd married David, she'd predicted divorce within 2 years. When David had actually died in a car accident 4 years into our marriage, she'd transformed her failed prediction into retroactive wisdom. I always knew that relationship was too good to last. Since becoming a widow at 31, I'd endured 8 years of Jennifer's helpful interventions. Job suggestions for positions beneath my qualifications. Parenting advice from someone whose own children were in therapy. Financial guidance that always involved me accepting my diminished circumstances. The job application was just her latest masterpiece. I looked at the paper she'd slid across the table. Summit Property Management was printed at the top, Jennifer's employer, where she worked as a mid-level human resources coordinator. She'd been there for 12 years, never promoted beyond her current position, but she talked about her company like she owned the place. She didn't know that I did. Not Summit Property Management, that was a tenant, but the building it occupied, the 15-story commercial tower in the business district, was one of 7 properties in my portfolio. I'd purchased it through an LLC 3 years ago, part of a strategic acquisition that Jennifer's company had never bothered to investigate. The irony was almost too perfect. A cleaning position, I repeated, my voice neutral. It's honest work. No shame in it. Jennifer's tone suggested the opposite. The benefits are decent, and Marcus could probably use some stability. I know you've been struggling. Have I? Well, you never talk about work. You drive that old car. You still live in that small house David left you. She gestured vaguely. It's obvious things are tight. Marcus's hand found mine under the table, squeezing. He knew the truth, had been sworn to secrecy because I'd wanted to protect him from exactly this kind of moment. But his face still burned with humiliation, watching his aunt publicly diminish his mother. I appreciate the thought, I said, folding the application. I'll pass it to my assistant. Jennifer laughed. Your assistant? Since when do you have an assistant? Since I needed someone to manage my properties. I met her eyes, including the building where Summit Property Management rents the 4th and 5th floors. The table went quiet. The revelation landed like a bomb in slow motion. Jennifer's smile froze. My parents exchanged confused glances. My brother-in-law, who'd been smirking beside Jennifer, set down his fork. What are you talking about? Jennifer asked. Whitmore Commercial Holdings. That's my company. We own the building at 445 Market Street, the one where you work. Summit's lease is up for renewal next month. The paperwork has been sitting on my desk. That's impossible. The building is owned by some investment group. Whitmore Commercial Holdings, LLC. I'm the sole member. I pulled out my phone, opened my email, and handed it to her. Here's the lease renewal proposal. You can see the landlord's signature line. That's me. Jennifer stared at the screen, scrolling through the document. Her face cycled through disbelief, confusion, and something that looked like fear. This doesn't make sense. You work from home doing something with computers. I work from home managing a commercial real estate portfolio worth approximately $47 million. 7 properties, 32 tenants, and a staff of 4. I took my phone back. There's something with computers is portfolio management software that I also developed and now licensed to other property management firms. My father, who'd been watching silently, finally spoke. Jennifer, I think you should stop. Stop what? She's obviously lying. She's not lying. Dad's voice was firm. I've known about her business for 3 years. She asked me not to say anything because she wanted privacy. But I've seen the tax returns. I've visited the properties. Your sister is one of the most successful real estate investors in this city. The silence that followed was extraordinary. Jennifer's husband was doing mental calculations, his expression shifting from smugness to something like awe. My mother was staring at me like I'd revealed I was secretly an astronaut. The cousins and aunts and uncles scattered around the table were whispering to each other, trying to process the information. Marcus sat up straighter beside me, the humiliation draining from his face, replaced by something like pride. Why didn't you tell anyone? My mother finally asked. Because I wanted to see how people treated me when they thought I had nothing. I wanted to know who offered help because they cared, and who offered help because it made them feel superior. I looked at Jennifer. You've spent 8 years suggesting I'm failing. 8 years of job applications and budgeting advice and comments about how hard it must be to raise Marcus alone. You brought Thanksgiving leftovers to my house last year because you had extra and thought I could use them. You offered to buy Marcus's school supplies because every little bit helps. I was trying to be supportive. You were trying to establish that I was beneath you. You needed me to be struggling because my success would threaten your self-image. I gestured at the job application still sitting on the table. A cleaning position. You handed that to me in front of my son, in front of the entire family, because you wanted everyone to see you being generous to your pathetic little sister. That's not. It is. We both know it is. The dinner devolved from there. Jennifer attempted various defenses. She hadn't known. She'd been trying to help. I should have told her the truth instead of letting her embarrass herself. Each excuse rang hollow. You embarrassed yourself, I finally said. You chose to assume I was failing instead of asking how I was doing. You chose to offer a cleaning job instead of having a real conversation about my life. The only person responsible for your embarrassment is you. You could have corrected me at any time. And lost the chance to see who you really are? No. I needed to know if my sister would ever treat me with respect when she thought I had nothing to offer. I have my answer. Marcus spoke up for the first time. Aunt Jennifer, you made my mom feel bad for years. You made me feel bad, like we were poor and needed help. But we're not poor. Mom worked really hard while you were being mean about it. Jennifer's face crumpled. Whatever she'd expected from this dinner, public accountability from a 12-year-old wasn't it. I'm sorry, she said, the words sounding foreign in her mouth. I didn't realize. You didn't want to realize. That's different. I pulled out a second document from my purse. This is Summit Property Management's lease renewal, I said, placing it on the table. The current terms have them at $32 per square foot. Market rate for that building is $41. I've been giving them a discount for years because I didn't want to raise rents during the pandemic recovery. Jennifer's husband leaned forward. That's a significant discount. About $180,000 annually, which I can revoke at any time, since the lease is month to month until the renewal is signed. You wouldn't. I won't. Because unlike you, I don't use my position to punish people. I slid the document toward her. But I want you to understand something. Every day you go to work, you're going to know that your rent is reasonable because I chose to make it reasonable. Every paycheck you earn is partially possible because I'm not extracting maximum value from your employer. That's not fair. Neither is handing your sister a job application for a cleaning position in front of her son. But here we are. The drive home was quiet at first. Marcus stared out the window, processing what had happened. Finally, he spoke. Mom, why did you keep it secret so long? Because I wanted to protect you. I didn't want you growing up thinking money was what made us valuable. I didn't want you measuring yourself against your cousin's toys or vacations. But you let Aunt Jennifer be mean to us. I know, and I'm sorry for that. I thought eventually she'd treat us well just because we're family. I was wrong. Are we really rich? We're comfortable. Rich is relative. But we never have to worry about where the next meal is coming from, and we have choices most people don't. Then why do we live in the same house? Drive the same car? Because I loved your father, and that house is where we built our family. Because that car still runs, and replacing it would be wasteful. Because money is a tool, not an identity. I reached over and squeezed his hand. I never wanted you to think wealth made you better than anyone. Tonight, you saw what happens when people believe that. Aunt Jennifer? Aunt Jennifer measures her worth by looking down on others. That's a sad way to live. The fallout with Jennifer took months to settle. She attempted a formal apology, stilted, clearly rehearsed, probably suggested by her husband, who'd realized the implications of antagonizing their landlord. I accepted it graciously but established new boundaries. No more unsolicited advice. No more comments about my circumstances. No more treating Marcus as a charity case. The family dynamics shifted permanently. Relatives who'd witnessed the dinner began treating me differently. Some with newfound respect, others with awkwardness, a few with transparent self-interest. I noted each reaction and adjusted my relationships accordingly. My father and I grew closer. He'd kept my secret for years, never using the information to defend me, respecting my wishes even when it meant watching Jennifer attack me. I understood his position better now. I wanted to tell her, he admitted. Every time she handed you those job applications or made those comments. But you'd asked me not to. I needed to know the truth about her. And now you know. Now I know. Jennifer still works in the building I own. We've reached a détente, civil without warmth, cordial without closeness. She's never mentioned the job application again, never tried to offer me employment advice, never commented on my car or my house. The lease renewed at a fair rate. I'm not cruel enough to use financial leverage as punishment. But Jennifer knows, every day she walks into that building, that her assumption of my failure was spectacularly wrong. Marcus is 15 now, old enough to understand more about our finances, still grounded enough to value people over possessions. He started learning about real estate, asking questions about portfolio management, showing interest in the business I've built. I want to work hard like you did, he told me recently. But I don't want to be like Aunt Jennifer. I don't want to need other people to fail so I can feel good about myself. That's the most important lesson. Success means nothing if you build it on other people's diminishment. He nodded, understanding in a way Jennifer never has. My sister handed me a job application for a cleaning position. I handed her the truth about who actually provides for whom. Some lessons can only be learned through revelation. And some revelations are worth a decade of patience.